Hey folks, it's Carl here and welcome back to the channel. So if you've been applying for jobs in Canada and getting no responses, this video is for you. I'm going to reveal the 5 things you don't need on your Canada resume. Now, these are things that might be holding you back from getting the attention of hiring managers. And trust me, once you remove them, you will start seeing results. Now, without wasting much time, let's get right in. Now, first up, let's talk about something that's so commonly seen on resumes, especially from people coming from outside of Canada. That is your full address. Now, here is why you don't need your full address. Canadian employers don't need to know where you live in detail. While it is important, right, to mention the city or province where you're located, this will show that you're based in Canada. Your full street address is unnecessary. Okay, they don't put in the full street address. So including your home address is actually also a privacy risk. Okay, it can even make your resume also look a bit outdated, right? So for example, when I first started applying for jobs in Canada, I put my full address on my resume, just like I did back home, right? And I know many of you do same. But I quickly learned that it was unnecessary. Not only did it take up space, but it also gave off the impression that I did not understand the Canadian resume standards. Okay, so here's what you should do instead. Just include your city and province, because granted, there are some jobs that would want to know where you're applying from. Okay, there are some jobs that require that you live in close proximity to the workplace. Okay, so some would require it, but do not put your full address. Okay, include just the city and province. That should be enough. That also makes it clear and professional, right? And if you're in the process of moving and you don't want to reveal your exact location, you can simply list your address as the Toronto area or the Vancouver area, something like that, right? To keep it a little bit general, okay? But do not put your full address, right? So I've got a quick question for you. Have you included your full address on your resume? Let me know in the comments and I'll give you some personal feedback as well. Now, the second one, personal details like age, marital status, and religion. Now, I know this is a big one. You know, personal details, like I've mentioned, are a big one, and many people like to include them on their resumes. Guess what? You don't need to. Now, here's why you don't need to put all these details on your resume. Canadian employers are legally prohibited from considering things like your age, marital status, or religious affiliation during the hiring process. Okay, so they cannot be biased towards those things, right? So including these details on your resume can actually work against you, because it might raise concerns about discrimination, even though it's not legal in Canada. Concerns have been raised with regards to ageism, where, you know, people are denied opportunities because the hiring managers feel they're too young. And why? How do they even know that? It's because the applicants put their age on the resume, right? It could also be the other way around. So these are things that you do not want to put there, right? Religion and all of that, those are details that you do not necessarily need to put on a resume. Now, for example, there are people that put their age and marital status on their resumes and thinking that this would make them more personable. But after, you know, applying for so long, they actually later realize that it makes them seem outdated. So once people remove this from their resumes, you'd realize that, or some of them actually realize that they're getting more interview calls. Okay, so what should you do instead? Leave these personal details out. Simply put, okay? Take those off. You don't need to mention your age. You don't need to mention your marital status. You don't need to mention your religion. You don't even need your photograph, okay? Why? Because like I mentioned in my previous videos, most of these hiring managers would use an ATS system to do the first screening of resumes. And guess what? ATS systems do not read photos. Okay, so if you have your photo on your resume, it's not going to do anything, right? So take those off and focus more on skills, experience, and achievements. Okay, those are your key things. Focus more on those. Now, what do you think? Should personal details like age be included on a resume? I want to know what you think as well. Drop your thoughts below and let's talk about it. Now, next up, the objective statement. Now, this is something I see a lot of newcomers still include on their resumes. But here is the truth. It's outdated, okay? It's not needed. Now, here's the reason why you don't need an objective statement. An objective statement was common like many years ago, right? But nowadays, employers want to see what you bring to the table right away. So an objective statement takes up valuable space without giving any real value, okay? Employers want to know how you can help them solve problems and what skills you bring to the role. Now, don't confuse what an objective statement is, okay? So let me explain. An objective statement is typically a short sentence or paragraph at the beginning of your resume where you mention your career goals, what you aim to achieve, or what you want from the job you're applying for. It's essentially a wish list, okay, if you ask me. Now, real life example, there are many people that move to Canada and have a resume with an objective statement that says something like seeking a challenging position in a dynamic organization where I can utilize my skills. Well, it doesn't add anything to the application. Most newcomers found out the hard way, and it is often ignored, okay? So they realized that once they switched from the objective statements to the professional summary that highlighted the skills and achievements, they started getting more attention. Okay, so what's a professional summary? Now know this, the professional summary is totally different from the objective statement, right? So the professional summary is a brief section at the top of a resume that highlights your skills, qualifications, and experience. So unlike an objective statement, a professional summary focuses on the value you can bring to the employer rather than what you are hoping to get from the job. So you see, there's a difference right there. So the professional summary should be specific and tailored to the position you are applying for. Now, why a professional summary is better? Now, a professional summary is result-oriented and directly tells employers how you can add value to their team. It is much more engaging because it gives them a reason to keep reading. So the goal is to grab their attention immediately with your strongest skills and achievements. So what should you do instead? Instead of an objective statement, replace it with a professional summary that quickly tells the employer who you are, what you do, and the value you bring. Make it concise, okay? Do not make a professional summary that's too long. Make it concise and let it focus on your key skills, experience, and accomplishments. All right. So I've got a quick question for you. Have you used an objective statement in your resume? How do you feel about it now? And drop a comment in the comment section below and let's have a discussion. If you don't agree with me, I would like to know as well. Let's have a discussion. Now, number 4, irrelevant work experience. Now, let's talk about work experience. Many newcomers or many new people make the mistake of including irrelevant work experience that doesn't relate to the job they're applying for. Now, here's why you don't need it. Employers want to see that you have a relevant experience to offer. So if your past jobs are unrelated to the position you're applying for, my advice is ditch them, okay? Focus on what adds value to your application. Including irrelevant experience just makes your resume longer and harder to read. Now, don't get me wrong, there are certain jobs where you gain some transferable skills that would apply to the new job you're applying for. Now, if there's something like that, absolutely highlight those and make sure you are able to link it, build that connection so that the employer knows exactly what you're talking about. Okay, but if there's nothing and there's a huge contrast between the previous roles, my advice is ditch them. Okay, now there are people that work in, for example, retail jobs before moving to Canada, and they include that on their resume for a position in marketing. Right now, if that experience in retail is not relevant, it's going to just take up valuable space that could have been used for more important skills, So once people start cleaning up their resumes and making it more targeted and professional, they realize that they get more results that way. Okay, so make sure that you put relevant work experience and not any irrelevant work experience. Okay, now what should you do instead? Only include experience that's directly related to the job you're applying for. Okay, I think that goes without saying. So if you have other jobs that don't align, it's okay to leave them off or just mention them briefly if they demonstrate transferable skills, like we mentioned. All right, so if they do demonstrate some transferable skills, mention them briefly and do not over elaborate. All right, so let me know, have you included any jobs that are not relevant to the position you're applying for? What did you learn from it? Let me know in the comment section and let's interact. Okay, now number 5, unnecessary skills and hobbies. Now that's the last thing I want to talk about. That's a list of skills and hobbies. I know a lot of people add things like cooking or playing guitar as hobbies, but here's why you should leave these things off your resume. Okay, so let's talk about why you don't need them. Now, skills like Microsoft Word or email are assumed in most jobs now. Okay, if you're applying for a job in the corporate world and you don't know how to use Microsoft Word at all, and you're not familiar with emails, then I mean, what are you looking for, right? So most of these skills are assumed now, and listing them just takes up space, right? Hobbies are great, but while they're great for like social settings, they don't really tell the employer anything about your professional qualifications. Now, mind you, hobbies are okay, they're cool, right? But they are not hiring you just merely based off those hobbies, right? So the focus is more on your professional qualifications and what you're bringing to the team. So focus more on skills that are directly related to the job. Now, in my early days of applying for jobs, I listed skills like basic computer skills and hobbies like watching movies. These did not really add anything. They don't add any real value to my resume. Okay, let's be honest. And they are not going to add any value to resumes in 2025, right? Once I switched from those, hobbies and all of that and focused more on industry specific skills, such as project management, digital marketing, or whatever skills you have, you would now see a huge difference in the number of responses you receive. Okay, so keep that in mind. What should you do? I think it's pretty clear. Only list relevant skills, right? Things that are required for the job you're applying for. So if you're applying for a digital marketing role, for example, list SEO, social media management, and Google Analytics. Those are some of the skills you can list. Your hobbies and personal interests, I would say keep them for your LinkedIn profile or an interview if it's relevant, right? Because at the interview stage, they're going to want to know a little bit more about you, and then you can talk about those things. So do not take up valuable space on your resume listing all these hobbies. There are people that list a ton of hobbies, right? They have a long list of hobbies. Why? That's not going to do anything, right? You can discuss those at the interview level. So I want to know, I'm curious, do you have any skills or hobbies listed on your resume? How are they working for you so far? I would want to know, because maybe some might say it still works for them. You never know. So let's have the discussion in the comment section below. All right, so to wrap things up, when you're applying for jobs in Canada, make sure your resume is professional, it's focused, and to the point. Okay, remove unnecessary information like your full address, your irrelevant experience, outdated objective statements, and unnecessary skills. Okay, by following these tips, I'm sure you're going to create a resume that stands out and gets the attention it deserves. Now remember, your resume is your first impression with employers, okay? And you want to make that first impression count, right? So if you found these tips helpful, do not forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with anyone you think could use a resume upgrade, or any newcomers to Canada. Now, what's the one thing that you are going to remove from your resume after watching this video? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll make sure to reply with even more tips. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.